Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. So today's case is on Corrie Mckeague, and this one was very requested by a lot of people. That's not something that I'd actually heard of before, but when I looked into it, there are a couple reasons why it really sparked my interest. So Corrie was 23 years old and he went missing almost exactly a year ago. The day that this goes up, the day afterwards, the 24th of September, will be the 1-year mark of when he went missing. He was an Air Force gunner in the RAF, which is the Royal Air Force. He absolutely loved doing what he did, and his mom always described him in interviews as just being an extremely friendly person, really energetic, really lively, like just wanted to live life to the absolute fullest, was not scared of anything, was just this really independent, confident, happy guy. The last time that he was seen was in the St. Edmunds area of Suffolk, England. So on the 23rd of September, he went out to have some drinks with friends. He didn't originally plan to go out. Other guys that were in the RAF as well wanted to go out for the night. They had the weekend off, and he was hesitant at first, and they went ahead and left, and then he last minute decided he wanted to go as well. So he did something he wouldn't normally do, was take his car to go out drinking, and he had full intentions of leaving his car there overnight and finding another way home. So they went out to a couple of bars, and then one way or another he ended up separated from his friends. I'm not exactly why, I couldn't find the cause, but according to friends and family, it wasn't really unlike him to just kind of go off on his own after a while, do his own thing, and then go home. The last club that he went to was a club called Flex, and it was on St. Andrew Street South, and the bouncer actually didn't really kick him out. He'd just been sitting at the bar for a while, appeared to have had a little bit too much to drink, so the bouncer just went, tapped on his shoulder, was like, hey dude, it's probably time for you to go home. And they even had a conversation outside where Corrie even walked away. So it wasn't anything bad, there were no issues, no fights. He was literally just asked to leave, and that's exactly what he did. He was seen on CCTV footage between 1:15 and 1:30. He stopped at his normal restaurant, got some takeaway food, which once again is pretty normal for someone who has just been drinking. And then the last time he was seen was at 3:25, and he was on, and excuse me once again if I totally butcher this name, Brentgovel Street? Bear with me. He was walking towards a cul-de-sac, and one thing I will say is I did not realize how different terminology was. It took me a while of just researching what any of these articles meant because there's so many different terms for things. But he went to a horseshoe. In this cul-de-sac were a bunch of huge trash bins, dumpsters, things like that, because there were a bunch of businesses around this cul-de-sac. And just to kind of paint the picture for you, it was in town. It was not like a subdivision, like a housing cul-de-sac. There were a bunch of businesses totally surrounding this, like high walls, like when you went in, there really wasn't any getting out other than the way that you came. After this, there was absolutely no CCTV footage that showed where he went afterwards. He just pretty much vanished. I did see a couple places that there was more CCTV footage of him that showed him sleeping in a doorway, and I even saw an interview where the mom said that he was sleeping in the doorway, a doorway somewhere, for like 1 or 2 hours, but I've not been able to find footage of it, and I've not been able to find more than a couple articles stating that, so I do not know if that is fact. That is just something that I have seen. Wasn't even reported missing until the 26th of September, which was a Monday, because he did have the entire weekend off. No one, I guess, thought to really check on him much. So the only time there were any alarms raised was when he did not show up for work that following Monday. And immediately everyone knew something wasn't right at that point because he loved his job, he loved what he was doing, and it was very unlike him. So this is when they started trying to gather as much information as possible. They reviewed all CCTV footage. The area that he was in was very heavily covered. And this is where they determined that there was no footage of him coming out of this cul-de-sac. There are only a couple of ways that he could have possibly gotten out, and that was to either backtrack the way he had come in, which he was not seen leaving, or somehow he managed to get through a back door of one of these businesses, walked through the business, and exited on the front door of the shop, which also they were able to rule out almost immediately because there's heavy CCTV footage on the front side of these shops, and he was not seen leaving any of them. So from a CCTV footage standpoint, Corrie did not even leave this cul-de-sac. They decided to check his phone and see if his phone pings could possibly tell them where he went, if he was even still in the cul-de-sac. That's when they found that his phone seems to have moved from St. Edmunds to Barton Mills, which is a 12-mile trek, and he actually did that trek and I think it was about 28 minutes, which immediately told them he did not walk this on foot. This was him traveling in some sort of vehicle. They decided to see what the route looked like of the trash truck that gathered all of the trash from that specific cul-de-sac, and sure enough, it went that exact same morning from this cul-de-sac to Barton Mills and dumped everything in a landfill. Once they found this trash truck, they kind of amounted it to nothing. There was really nothing on the inside of it, and at this point everything had been dumped into the landfill. So they made a couple of decisions that a lot of people think were very, very questionable. It did say that at around 8 a.m., right beside the landfill, the phone either was broken, turned off, died, one of the above, and so for some reason the police decided that they were not going to immediately search the landfill. They did not think there was any way he had gotten into this landfill to begin with, and that it was going to take up a lot of time that could potentially be wasted in finding him somewhere else. So this is where their theories really start to come into play. One theory was that someone possibly gave him a ride home. Now, I have not seen all of the CCTV footage, and I don't think they've fully released the whole entire night of the CCTV footage for privacy reasons, but I'm not sure if there maybe was a car that had pulled in there and pulled out, but they did think it was a possibility that someone picked him up and drove him out. His friends and his mother have backed this up kind of from day one, saying they would not be surprised. He was a very friendly person, as I said before, and if he ever saw anyone walking on the side of the road, he never would hesitate to pick them up. So if someone had seen him, offered him a ride, he would be the kind of person that would graciously accept it and just kind of go about his night. Decided to search a lot of the small villages surrounding where the RAF base was. They 100% ruled out at this point that he had not walked because of how fast his phone traveled, and it is not something he would have attempted to do because it was 10 miles away. So when they searched all these different villages, they found absolutely nothing, and I mean, they did pretty extensive searches. The community has done amazing at really participating and helping find Corrie. So a lot of people got together, searches were done. They shut down portions of road, portions of highway. They also decided to walk the railroad lines, and despite all of the efforts everyone put in to find Corrie, absolutely nothing was found. At this point, they decided to look deeper into the CCTV footage, and they identified that 39 different people were in the area at the time around and after Corrie was there. They couldn't identify a lot of them, so they asked for public help, and once again the public really came through and helped identify a lot of these people. And I'm not sure, I've tried following up on what exactly happened with every single one of these potential witnesses. From what I'm gathering, they did not find anything with any of them. But once again, I couldn't find a ton of credible sources on this. So once him being driven home was kind of ruled out, once him walking home was ruled out, they then thought, okay, well, maybe what happened is that he did try to walk home, but he was hit by a car potentially. It was dark. I don't know if the roads there are heavily lit. So once again, they gathered a bunch of people, a bunch of different volunteers, and they searched a ton of areas along the way to the RAF. Once again, they found absolutely nothing, and the entire area had been completely cleared by December 17th. So later in December, Corrie's mother, Nicola, decided that she was not at all happy with how the police had been doing the search. I saw from the very, very beginning that everyone was not very happy that this landfill was not investigated. To me, considering he was around a ton of dumpsters and that's the area he wandered into, and his phone was seen going the exact same route as this trash truck, and his phone seemed to be ending at the landfill, I think that was a huge flaw in the police's search. There were apparently a bunch of other leads. There were a couple of men that had set fire to a car in the area, just a bunch of different things that the mother felt were not being followed thoroughly enough. So she actually threatened to hire a private investigator, and after working with the police, also the RAF, who had been doing their own investigation, finally came to an agreement that if the police looked into these three men, that she would not hire a private investigator and keep everything in the police's hands. Unfortunately, these three men had absolutely nothing to do with it, so yet again they were back to square one. In January, they ended up finding the back of a phone kind of in the same area that they thought he possibly could have lost his. The only issue with this is that it was only the back of the phone. It was pretty much just like the plastic pieces. There was no SIM card, there was nothing, no way to really turn the phone on, get the phone working. It was just basically a piece of plastic from a phone. So even though they did find something, they had absolutely no way to test to see if it did in fact belong to Corrie. Finally, in February, almost 5 months after Corrie disappeared, the police finally decided to go ahead and search the landfill. This is where their new theory, and probably the most widely believed theory, comes into play, and it is probably going to be a little bit graphic for some people, so this is just a little bit of a forewarning. The theory was that Corrie stumbled into this cul-de-sac and he had just eaten, was intoxicated obviously, and he stumbled into one of these trash cans or dumpsters and fell asleep. And when the trash truck came to pick everything up, he was then crushed to death and taken to the landfill and dumped. There's not really any way for the person driving the trash truck to have any idea what they're dumping, so it's very possible that this person didn't even realize they were dumping Corrie into their trash truck. So there was a 50,000 pound reward that someone had donated to the family by a member of the community, which I think is absolutely amazing that there were people out there who supported this so much, and this person wanted to remain anonymous. However, the mother was getting a little frustrated, I think, that there was no one coming forward. So at the end of February, she said that if nothing was brought to them in the next week, she was withdrawing the reward, which shocked a lot of people, and a lot of people really believed that someone hearing this, if they knew something, it would be great initiative for them to come forward and say something, because obviously if the money is steadily there, they can kind of take their time on coming forward, but if there was a timeline, it's a little bit more encouragement for them to come out. No one ended up coming forward, and the money was withdrawn, and then by May, the police force had actually gone through 3,000 tons of landfill waste, which I think is insane. I know it takes a lot of time. However, if they had looked in that 3-day time period between when he went missing and when they realized that he potentially was in this landfill, it would have taken much less time than it did now that they have waited. They did end up making a false arrest shortly after this. I'm not exactly sure the whole story behind it, but it somehow led them to some misinformation they had about the truck itself, the trash truck that Corrie supposedly had been in. When they first looked into it, they checked the weight the truck had been, because that is checked when they come to the landfill. It had initially been thought it was around, I want to say like 50-ish pounds, 30 to 50 pounds. However, on July 21st, 2017, after a 20-week search, the police finally decided to call off the search of the landfill. It was really just amounting to nothing. They had gone through over 7,200 tons of landfill waste, and they had not found anything at all of Corrie. They were finding things that said they were in the right area. They found papers and different receipts and things that showed that they were hitting things from September of 2016, but they never actually found anything of Corrie. The police handed the landfill back over to the owners, and Corrie's mother, Nicola, was really unhappy with this. She thought that this was getting them closer to the answer, and as soon as they had finally possibly gotten close enough to where if they just searched a little bit more, they might potentially find something. So she really refused this. She put up her own fight to prevent that area from being touched. Now we're coming up to more recent events. So in August 2017, so just last month, police actually stated that they were searching these remains that were possibly incinerated. So some of the material that was brought to the landfill was first taken to be incinerated, and then it was brought. And apparently in one of the incinerators, someone found what appeared to be bones. So this got a lot of people excited. A lot of people freaked out. They thought, you know, this is it. Like, we might find Corrie, we might find out what happened to him, have some answers. And after a long search, they realized it was just animal bones, and yet again, they were back to square one. Then later on in August, the family decided to reinstate the reward, which I think was a great idea. I completely understand why they took it away to begin with, but I think once again, they're just feeling so incredibly desperate, and so they put it up yet again, hoping that would encourage someone to come forward with any sort of answers. They went public, they begged people, it doesn't matter what kind of information you have, bad or good, just please come forward with it. And so far, not a single person has come forward yet. That actually brings us to this week, just a couple of days ago. On the 21st of this month, September, Suffolk police came out with 4 new images from CCTV. There were 4 guys that Corrie possibly could have been hanging out with, talking to, new information about them, and so they have released this to the public. I'm not exactly sure where this came from. I feel like after a year, there's no way they're finding new CCTV footage. I don't know if at this point they're just trying to bring anything to light if possible. I'm not sure if this is some of the people they were never able to identify before. I'm not exactly sure, but they are really zoning in on these 4 people who might potentially know something. There's also a picture of a woman that I have found, and they have put her picture out. She had been seen talking to him, and she might know something as well, whether that's his whereabouts, if he said something about planning on going somewhere, anything possible. And yet again, in the past couple days, no one's come forward yet. So I'm very interested to see if anyone sees these pictures, or even if the people in the pictures themselves come forward. This case is so strange to me because it feels like it should be easy to solve. You know, this isn't someone who, you know, fell into an entire ocean. This isn't someone who went missing in a very open place. He literally was surrounded by CCTV footage. He walked into a dead end and then just disappeared. And there's this huge part of me that honestly believes that the most likely theory is that he did fall into a dumpster, or possibly, you know, fall asleep in a dumpster and then was crushed and taken to the landfill, and he just hasn't been found. But that's where I get frustrated. I cannot find anything on the CCTV footage of him taking a nap in a doorway. And if that is in fact what he did, why would he wake up from his nap and then immediately go fall asleep again in a dumpster? I don't know. And his mother even said that in one of the quotes that I found of her saying. Yet once again, I'm not 100% sure if it is factual because I was not able to find more than 1 or 2 sources of it, but that does make me question a lot. Why would he have taken a nap and then gone and fallen asleep? If this whole nap thing can be kind of discredited or addressed, maybe I just haven't found it anywhere, then I would find it more plausible that he just fell asleep inside of a dumpster. I mean, people think that sounds crazy, but when you are drunk, the things that you do sometimes are not very logical. I literally know someone who thought a trash can was a bathroom before, and that is, I mean, like, you never know. When you are intoxicated, a lot of things you do sometimes don't really have reasoning behind them. Some people seem to have this theory that he decided to run away, that he planned everything, and everyone who knew him, everyone who is from the area, just 100% does not believe this theory. His mother says there's absolutely no way. Now, if he did want to just up and leave, a lot of people think he maybe wasn't happy in the RAF, he wasn't happy with his job, he wasn't happy with the way his life was headed. He apparently went to school for about a year to do hair and then changed his mind and wanted to do the RAF. So a lot of people think like that he just made some mistake and was regretting it and his kind of life choices of what to do as a career and decided to run. But, you know, his family had been very involved in law enforcement and, you know, being part of the Air Force or the military. So it was something that he had grown up with and was around frequently, and something that he genuinely loved and enjoyed doing. So they completely refuse this theory 100%. Even some of the investigators have said, you know, it's really difficult these days to just vanish and go missing. You leave some sort of footprint somewhere, whether that's on social media, whether you tell someone about it, whether cameras pick it up, and everyone seems to agree that this area was so heavily caught on camera that it would not be the first place anyone would choose to use to disappear. It just wasn't set up well for someone who was planning to run away unless they genuinely wanted to be found while running away. He had talked to his brother for over 45 minutes on the phone at some point earlier on in the night. He was planning on going home for Halloween. He'd already booked his flight for it. And you guys, we've seen this a couple times in the different videos that I have done, where the first huge mistake that a lot of people who have gone missing in this sort of situation have made is to go off on their own. And this is no fault of really anyone. It's more to me to be seen as a learning experience that a lot of these cases that I've covered, it's been a friend who has strayed away from their other friends while drinking. And this is kind of something for us all to grow from. If you are drinking, if you are with a group of friends, don't let anyone go off on their own, because there are too many, way too many cases where that ends in a missing or murdered or death of whoever went off on their own. The friends aren't thought to have any sort of involvement in this. There's literally just nothing at this point. And the mother has publicly come out and said that she has prepared herself if this was just an accident of him falling asleep in a dumpster and then being taken to a landfill and passing away that way. But she strongly believes there is a third person involved in some way, shape, or form. It's just heartbreaking because when he went missing, his girlfriend was in the United States on vacation, and she found out a couple months later that she was pregnant and expecting their child, and that child now has to grow up without a father, which is absolutely terrible. She is an incredibly strong person for being able to manage something like that, because that's just crazy. I feel like there just should be so many more answers. You know, to me, it's just unfortunate because I feel like this just shows that you never know what's gonna happen. You know, you could be surrounded by CCTV footage, you could be surrounded by people that love you, people that care about you. You could be such a great person, such a smart person, and somehow just bad things happen. I truly hope that this family gets the answers that they deserve. There's got to be something. One thing that the mother said in one of the interviews really got to me, and that's that people don't just vanish. And I feel like when we're looking at these cases and, you know, trying to figure out what's going on, it does. It seems like this person has just vanished with absolutely no trace, but that's just not the truth. They are somewhere. They are somewhere, and someone knows something, someone has seen something. There is a trace of that person somewhere. It's just about finding it, and that is the absolute hardest part. So I sincerely hope that this family gets the answers that they need so badly. It was heartbreaking to watch them talk about how they just have to take it day by day and hope for the best but prepare for the worst. It's absolutely terrible. I could never imagine being in that sort of position. So let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think it is just as obvious as him falling into a trash can or falling asleep in a trash can and then accidentally being crushed and taken to the landfill? Do you think they would have found him if that was the case? Or do you think he possibly was taken by someone without anyone really noticing? Or do you think he ran away? Do you think for some reason he just felt the need to leave? I've got no idea what to think about this one, and I know you guys are probably like, wow, that's a first. But this one, I genuinely have no clue. I don't know what to believe. The most obvious thing almost seems too obvious, if that makes sense. I feel like they would have found him in that landfill, but you know, you don't know. You know, maybe I could be wrong, maybe everyone could be wrong, there's just no telling. But let me know your theory down below. Let me know what you think. And also, don't forget, if you have any more information than what I stated here, feel free to leave it all down below. I sometimes cannot find everything other people can, especially when it's something from overseas. I don't always get the same websites. I can't always find the same things when I do a Google search. So leave anything you find down below and let me know if you like this video by giving it a thumbs up. Don't forget to check me on all of my social media platforms. Hit the subscribe button because our family is growing, and I am growing like the best family in the entire world. You guys keep me smiling on a daily basis, and I love every single one of you. But on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!